Today's sermon is entitled, Belittled by a Bully. Belittled by a bully. The 4th of July in the United States of America is known as Independence Day. No taxation without representation. Someone remembers history. By the end of the year, Big Bad Britain, the bully, had almost beat down this brand new baby of a country. And in December of 1776, without the Battle of Trenton, we might not have been called the United States of America. We might have been called Britain West. I don't have time to get all into the Battle of Trenton. On the East Coast, it was a snowy, dreary experience. And the first president of the United States was at the time amongst troops who were struggling, who were cold, who felt defeated, and felt like they couldn't make it. But it was the Battle of Trenton where they ended up launching, in the midst of this discouragement, in the midst of winter when it was cold, frustrating, and they were discouraged. They ended up launching a surprise attack, encouraging all of the troops and realizing they could win. If people don't learn how to defy being bullied, they will have to subject themselves forever to the whims of others who only want to use them for their own pleasures. I don't know if you were ever bullied or not. In a game called America's Pastime, baseball, there's a battle between the pitcher and the batter over power. That's what it is. For those of you that like the movie Hunger Games, it's less about food than it is about power. Handmaid's Tales is less about birthing statistics than it is about power. The $400 million budget that the Marvel movie Infinity War Part 2, which was renamed Avengers Endgame, and became a $2.8 billion office smash because it pitted the world's greatest fictional bully, Thanos, against the collective Marvel lineup. And the movie was all about power. There's a battle before we are born for power. Yeah, ask any mother who's carried a baby and see if there's not a battle that's going on for power. What's going to be eaten, what's not going to be eaten, what you used to like, what you no longer can eat, because there's a battle going on between mama and baby for power. After birth, right around age 2, there's a battle for power. There's a battle between teenagers and their parents for power. There are life-threatening road rage incidents over minor infractions that end up in dangerous battles all over power. Families get fractured over power. Churches split over power. People who call themselves Christians, meaning Christ-like, get in battles with God, His church, and other people. Not because God's word is unclear, but because rather than pursue love and relationships, ego wants power. Here we are, looking at a battle regarding power in 1 Samuel chapter 17. I'm going to read verses starting at verse 8. Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistines said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." On hearing the Philistines' word, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified, belittled by a bully. I guess this is a good time for me to stop and give you a sermon in a sentence. Who you are is determined by God and you and nobody else. It's not about what they say. It's about what He says that we ought to agree with and affirm. Here we are in verse 8. Israel and Philistine were on the verge of war. I know it might sound like I'm reading from the headlines of today, where we're dealing with countries at and on the verge of war. But in this text, one of the first things that happens, Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel. Bullies begin battles by taking a stand. They stand up and they say how it's going to be. Goliath stood and he shouted. Now you can have a calm situation and everything can go along smoothly. But if you want a fight to escalate, stand up and shout. Holler, yell, scream. It doesn't even matter what the subject is. But here, Goliath stood and he shouted. And the text says, he shouted to the ranks. Goliath picked on people who were not his peers. Here's this 9-foot-something tall man who's hollering at others. And the ones he's hollering to are the ranks. He's picking on people who are not his peers. That's what bullies do. They pick on people that are not their own size. They go against people who are not like them. Bullies pick on people. That's what bullies do. And Goliath magnified divisions rather than seeing similarities. Why? Goliath asked this question. And when he asked the question, I'm convinced he didn't even want the answer. Arguments, war, battle, a lot of times it happens because the bully decides that they want to know the answer to a question, but they don't even really want to know the answer to the question. They may ask, but that doesn't mean they want to know the answer. What position is the question posed from? When Goliath said, "Why do you come out and line up for battle?" What position did he ask that question from? Was it a position of anger? If we want to get along, rather than be bullied, we need to see when people are asking us questions and the questions they ask are out of anger. He asked a question, not only out of anger, but he asked a question from above. Rather than coming alongside one another and getting along with each other and just talking to one another on the same level, Goliath asked this question out of anger. He asked it from above, and he asked it ready to argue. That's not a conversation. That's not an opportunity for people to be able to get along, but that's a way for a battle to take place. He said, "Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul?" Rhetorical questions that get asked, but people don't really want the answers to. They aim to be right rather than use reason. If you find yourself wanting to be right in the conversation, rather than getting along with the person that you're talking to, it could be it's a rhetorical question. And it could be that you could be acting as a bully or you're being bullied. He said, "Choose a man and have him come down to meet me." Goliath was cruel rather than kind. We ought never be cruel instead of being kind. I told you about Avengers Endgame. Do you know that character Thanos, he was kind of like Goliath. Now, Goliath was real and Thanos was fictitious, but Thanos could manipulate matter and he could live indefinitely. Here's somebody who could go without food, he could go without air, he could go without water, and he could not die of old age. He was immune to disease, and he had a high resistance to psychic assaults. That means nobody could read his mind and figure out what it is that he was getting ready to do or trying to do or wanting to do. He was accomplished in hand-to-hand combat. He was capable of telekinesis. That means he could make stuff move, be changed, and do all kinds of action to stuff without physically doing anything. He could read the minds of other people without relying on their willingness to do it. Thanos was a super genius. And so, keep in mind, bullies pick on people. Verse 9. Verse 9 indicates a false hypothetical. It's a really challenging situation. It's an idea where something takes place that's not really taking place. Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come out down to me." Verse 9, "If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." He says it's either going to be this or it's going to be that. This is a false hypothetical. In other words, it was a false dilemma. It was a fake scenario asking for a real response. Okay, that's kind of deep. Let me see if I can give you an example of a logical fallacy. You all remember the story of Cinderella? If Cinderella's shoe fit perfectly, why did it fall off? It's a false hypothetical. It's not designed to come up with an answer. It's just something to consider, because the story of Cinderella isn't about physics. It's not about it's either this or it's that. Okay, let me give you another example. Either, 4th of July is coming up, either you love this country or you should leave. Let me tell you why that's a false hypothetical. You can love this country and still see cracks, problems, challenges, issues, things that need to be made better. You can be in a relationship with someone, and it doesn't have to be either this or that. False hypotheticals like the one posed by Goliath are challenging, and often they're a bullying tactic, and it's a way to belittle others. I'm going to say one, and I'm not jumping in the political arena, but this is a false hypothetical. Either you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. It's not that simple. You could be a member of either party or neither party and still participate in the political system. And there's opportunities and room for growth and development. Don't fall for being bullied into thinking it's either this or that. It's either black or it's white. It's not always that simple. Sometimes there's more to it than that. Goliath presented problematic problems. That's what they do. Bullies present problems. Have you ever come up with somebody who all they do is present a problem? They don't ever have a solution. They don't ever have something that's going to help. It could be a bullying tactic. Let me give you the false hypothetical in Endgame. Either Thanos wanted the 5th Infinity Stone, or he loved Gamora. Okay, so those of you that don't know the movie, Thanos, this big dude who really had 2 children who were great assassins, in his search for the almighty 5th Infinity Stone, was posed the possibility of being able to get it, but he had to give up something that he loved. And that was Gamora. And the reason it was a false hypothetical, because Gamora looked at him and laughed and said, "Ha, you can't possibly get the 5th Infinity Stone because you don't love anyone or anything other than yourself." It was a false hypothetical because he wanted the power. He wanted the 5th Infinity Stone, the Soul Stone, but he also loved Gamora. That's the only way he was able to get it. Sometimes we find ourselves in false hypotheticals. People belittle us, they bully us, and we don't realize we found ourselves in a trap that's not really about what it seems like. Verse 10, then the Philistine said, "Bullies, bet on no answer being a good answer." The text says, then the Philistines said, and when the Philistines said, it seems like there should be an answer, but there was no answer. The text goes on to say, this day I defy the armies of Israel. Bullies, they pick themselves up while they put others down. That's what bullies do. Nobody likes to be put down, but bullies do it time and time again. Give me a man and let us fight each other. Bullies want to win. They don't want to work it out. This is given the example when Thanos, Daddy, pitted Nebula against Gamora. Their whole childhood, he had them fight each other. And there was a scene, and I like it, in Guardians of the Galaxy, where Nebula and Gamora were fighting, and it almost seems like they didn't even necessarily know why. And Nebula said, "You always wanted to win, and all I wanted was a sister." In order to have relationships, sometimes we got to let go of the win. Sometimes we have to let go of being a bully. Sometimes we have to let go of ego and things that are big and powerful. Words can leave us pouting and they can leave us petrified. And bullies often belittle us because they don't know any better. They often become bullies because of what they've been through. Goliath was a champion, but his cheering section just used him. They didn't really care about him. And that's a lonely place to be. Thanos was a terror who was troubled by his past. He was stuck by the fact that his world didn't have everything that it needed, so he terrorized others in an effort to get what he wanted. Bullies and the belittled need somebody to believe in and somebody to believe in them. Who do you believe in? Who believes in you? Are you a bully? Have you been bullied? Do you feel belittled by what others do because they want to be right rather than be in relationship? I know someone who believes in you. I know someone who would never, ever bully you. I know someone who believes in you so much that he gave his life for you. Though he had all power, he was willing to give up heaven, live here on earth, just so he could fulfill coming alongside us and caring for us, loving us, living a sinless life, and then dying for us. His name is Jesus Christ, and he loves us so much. There's nothing anyone or anything could do to take his love away. He gave his life on the cross, died, was buried, raised on the third day, and he's coming back again for a church without a spot or a wrinkle. Jesus believes in you. He would never belittle you, and he's there for you no matter what you find yourself facing.